liberty, bringing you the news that matters. It's time to do right, think right, go right and be right for America and to make the word great again. Answer. Go right with Peter Boykin, constitutionalist for liberty, bringing you the news that matters and do right, think right, go right, be right. For America, let's make the world great again. Tune in to Go Right News. Let freedom begin.
Make my wish come true. Shit.
Welcome to hashtag Go Right with Peter Boykin, where we dive deep into the heart of our constitutional republic. Here's a chuckle for you. Top aides at Kamala Harris are whispering that she's seriously considering another presidential run in 2028, despite losing every single swing state to Donald Trump. Now, here's the kicker. 57% of Democrats don't want her back on the ballot. But let's not dwell on the comedy of political ambitions. Instead, let's explore the real issues shaping our liberty and governance. We'll be right back with more hashtag Go Right with Peter Boykin. Remember, we fight for what's right because it's time to go right.
Time to go right. Time to go right. Time to go right.
In a landmark defamation case, ABC's News and its prominent anchor, George Stephanopoulos, have been compelled to settle with President-elect Donald Trump for a whopping $15 million. This settlement marks what many are calling a significant legal triumph for Donald Trump in his upcoming and ongoing campaign against media outlets perceived to disseminate false or misleading information about him. Here's some details about the settlement. Monetary compensation. The network agrees to pay $15 million, which is to be donated as a charitable contribution to Trump's future presidential library. There's legal fees. Additionally, ABC News must cover more than $1 million in legal fees incurred by Trump's legal team. And a public apology. Part of the settlement required ABC and Stephanopoulos to issue a public apology, expressing regret in the erroneous claims made on air multiple times. The statement reads, ABC News and George Stephanopoulos regret statements regarding President Donald J. Trump made during an interview by George Stephanopoulos with Representative Nancy May on ABC's This Week on March 10th, 2024. Here's some background of the case. The accusation. During a heated exchange on ABC's This Week, Stephanopoulos repeatedly claimed that Trump had been liable for rape, a statement made in reference to a civil lawsuit by E. Jean Carroll. This civil case found Trump liable for sexual abuse, not rape, a crucial legal distinction under New York law. But we know it's BS. Meanwhile, Jean Carroll's allegations, Carroll accused Donald Trump of raping her in Bergendorf Goodman department store in the mid-1990s. She didn't even know what year. Didn't know what year. Couldn't give specifics. In the civil trial, while the jury did not find Donald Trump liable for rape, they did hold him accountable for sexual abuse and defamation, leading to a significant financial penalty. Trump has denied these allegations vehemently and is appealing the decision. Stephanopoulos' role in this is the repeated false claim by Stephanopoulos was seen by Trump's legal team as reckless and defamatory, especially given Stephanopoulos' history as a former Clinton White House aide, which some argue could have influenced his reporting. And there's broader implications. Media accountability. This case highlights the accountability of media in our constitutional republic, where freedom of the press comes with the responsibility to report accurately, particularly when discussing legal matters involving public figures. As for me, I'm a public opinionist. I'm a citizen journalist. I am not upheld as much as supposedly the CNN is. I give you my opinion, but what George was giving was not an opinion. He was trying to state fact that was not fact. In this legal precedent, the settlement could be a precedent on how media outlets handle reporting of legal outcomes, emphasizing a need for precise language and coverage to avoid defamation lawsuits. And in Trump's media strategy, Trump has a history of challenging media narratives through legal means, with this case being one of several against major news organizations. His approach seems to aid at curbing what he perceives a biased or false reporting, though critics argue it might intimidate journalists and constrain free speech. Well, there's a difference between free speech and when you're on an actual network like that, and you need to make sure you are covering your P's and Q's. Meanwhile, there's ongoing legal battles in a CBS lawsuit parallel to this case. Trump is also engaged in litigation against CBS News, demanding $10 billion for what he claims are deceptive editing practices during an interview with Kamala Harris on 60 Minutes. This lawsuit underscores Trump's broader offensive against media narratives he believes unfairly target him or manipulate public perception. This scenario reflects a complex interplay between media responsibility, legal accountability, and the exercise of First Amendment rights within the framework of our constitutional republic. It serves as a reminder of the intricate balance required when reporting on contentious and legally sensitive issues involving high-profile individuals. And if you don't believe my news on this, here's a couple of clips that I add to the podcast for you to get this information in some other way, more officially.
You don't find it offensive that Donald Trump has been found liable for rape?
Tonight, the fallout from a bombshell settlement in President-elect Trump's defamation suit against ABC News.
Endorsed Donald Trump for president. Judges and two separate juries have found him liable for rape and for defaming the victim of that rape.
The lawsuit stemming from this March interview by anchor George Stephanopoulos, where he grilled South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace, a survivor of rape, on how she could support Trump.
I'm asking you a very simple question.
And I answered it. You're shaming me for my political choices.
I'm asking you a question about why you endorse someone who's been found liable for rape.
It was not a criminal court. This was a
civil court.
It was a civil court.
Stephanopoulos falsely saying Trump was liable for rape more than 10 times over the course of the interview.
It has been shown to be rape. The judge affirmed that it was in fact rape. Donald Trump was found to have committed rape. That's just a fact.
In fact, the jury in the E. Jean Carroll case found Trump liable for sexual abuse and explicitly not for rape. Mr. Trump sued, claiming that Stephanopoulos and the network knew or should have known the statement was false. His lawyers citing this interview Stephanopoulos did with Carroll months earlier.
The first announcement was made, and it was that he was not found liable for rape. What were we thinking at that moment?
Robbie and I were sitting together and we were holding hands. Her hand was ice cold.
Complicating the dispute, the judge in the Carroll case clarified in a written opinion that New York's definition of the term rape is narrow, and that the jury's finding, quote, does not mean that she failed to prove Mr. Trump raped her, as many people commonly understand the word rape. The jury found that Mr. Trump, in fact, did exactly that.
It was against my will, and it hurt, and it was a fight.
Carroll alleged Trump assaulted her in a Manhattan department store in the mid-90s. Trump is appealing 2 jury verdicts, ordering him to pay Carroll nearly $90 million. In the settlement, ABC agreeing to donate $15 million to Trump's presidential library, pay $1 million to his legal team, and add a statement to their article on the interview reading, ABC News and George Stephanopoulos regret statements regarding President Donald J. Trump made during the interview. In a statement, the network saying, "We are pleased that the parties have reached an agreement to dismiss the lawsuit on the terms in the court filing." The deal widely seen as a win for President-elect Trump, who has made attacking the news media part of his political brand for years.
We have to straighten out the press. Our press is very corrupt, almost as corrupt as our elections.
Some journalists criticizing ABC's decision to settle. Paul Farhi, former media reporter with the Washington Post, calling the agreement an awful precedent and a huge sellout.
Ken Delanian joins us now. Ken, a lot going on, a lot of people talking about this one. I understand President-elect Trump is now promising even more defamation suits against news organizations.
That's right, Tom. Today he announced his intention to sue the Des Moines Register over a poll published in that newspaper just before the election showing that Kamala Harris was up 4 points. It was by a really well-known pollster, Ann Seltzer, who subsequently retired and acknowledged that that poll was wrong. It was an outlier. And this is one of many. If he sues, it would be one of many defamation suits he has going against the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Pulitzer Board, Bob Woodward. Mr. Trump portrays himself as a crusader against the news media. Tom?
All right, Ken Delanian for us. Ken, we appreciate that.
As President-elect Donald Trump prepares to take his office again, his newly announced Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, under the stewardship of tech mogul Elon Musk and entrepreneur Vivek Vamswari, pledges to undertake an unprecedented overhaul of federal spending, with a target to slash $2 trillion from the federal budget. DOGE aims to streamline government operations while respecting the sanctity of key social programs like Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. There are some key areas of focus. IRS reform. The initiative begins by tackling the labyrinth of U.S. tax code, which at 16 million words significantly contributes to the 6.5 billion hours Americans spend annually on tax preparation. DOGE's vision includes simplifying this code to reduce compliance costs and enhance tax collection efficiency. The Department of Defense, with the Pentagon failing its audits year after year, DOGE plans to address financial mismanagement and unaccounted spending. The goal is to improve oversight, reduce waste, and ensure that defense dollars are used effectively to maintain national security without excess. Education and USDA, both departments have been flagged for inefficiencies in recent audits. DOGE's strategy here involves eliminating redundant programs, streamlining educational funding, and improving the efficiency of agricultural support systems, aiming for less bureaucracy and more direct benefits to citizens. Congressional spending. Here is a significant push to reclaim $516 billion in funds allocated to programs whose authorizations have lapsed, some over a decade ago. This effort would return unused or misallocated funds to the Treasury, reducing unnecessary expenditures. Federal workplace modernization. One of the more controversial proposals include ending widespread telework policies, which critics argue have led to decreased productivity. Additionally, DOGE claims to repurpose thousands of vacant government buildings, potentially saving billions in maintenance and operation costs. Well, I would also say that in order to do this, you would increase telework, because remote working in a lot of states, a lot of cases have improved productivity, even though they're saying the opposite. And again, you would be able to free and sell vacant government buildings, et cetera, et cetera. So that's my opinion on that. IT system upgrades. The federal government spends nearly $100 billion annually on IT, with 80% going towards maintaining outdated systems. DOGE's approach involves modernization of these systems to reduce cost, enhancing security, and improve service delivery across federal agencies. I would say, though, our missile silos, our nuclear silos, probably should be on the analog system, because if they get hacked because you upgrade them or some other issue, then I'm more worried about that. Meanwhile, fraud reduction, a major financial drain, comes from fraud across various federal programs, with losses estimated between $233 billion and $521 billion per year. DOGE intends to implement stronger anti-fraud measures and clamp down on these losses, thereby safeguarding taxpayer dollars. Foreign aid scrutiny. There's a call for greater transparency and accountability in foreign aid. Some voices, including notable figures like Ron Paul, advocate for its complete elimination, arguing it's often misused and ineffective. I agree. Expedited federal projects. By cutting through bureaucratic red tape, DOGE aims to speed up federal construction and infrastructure projects, which often suffer from delays and cost overrides. NIH funding reallocation. This initiative proposes to reevaluate funding at the National Institutes of Health, and particularly for studies deemed less critical or less crucial or beneficial to the public, like those on microaggressions or specific animal behaviors. Reallocating these resources more directly to taxpayer benefits or more pressing health research. I would also state that they just now put out a very large, over 1,000-something page bill to stop from the government being shut down, including in that is pay raises for people in Congress. A lot of people complain about that, but if you do the research, the Congress people who do work technically 24/7 like the president does have not actually had a specific pay raise in a long time. The other individuals that work with them do get a cost of living pay raise. But again, those people are more 40-hour work people. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but they always try to pull that out. But when you do these bloated 1,000-something page documents and give people 2 days, 3 days to read them, it's ridiculous. It's just a way to pass through stuff that shouldn't be through. That's another thing that they should look at. The reduction of bills, especially spending bills. They should be broken up, so you do not have pork. Here's the broader context. National debt, with the U.S. national debt surpassing $36 trillion and the federal government running deficits like $1.8 trillion in 2024. DOGE's mission is not just feasible or physical, that's FISCAL, physical, not physical conservatism, but an urgent call to avoid what has been described as physical suicide path. Political and public reaction. While some laud the potential for substantial savings, critics question the feasibility and potential impact on services. The preservation of Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security might mitigate some backlash, but the scale of cuts in other areas remains contentious. As for the constitutional republic, the essence of DOGE's mission aligns with the values of a constitutional republic, where the government's role is to serve the people efficiently, manage public resources with integrity, and ensure that policies reflect the will and welfare of the citizens without unnecessary expansion of state power. DOGE is positioned not as a mere cost-cutting exercise, but as a profound effort to restore fiscal responsibility and governmental efficiency, aiming to realign the operations of the federal government in a manner that honors the principles upon our nation was founded. For further information, here's a video about it as well.
And illegal immigration is a great place for Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to start making major cuts through DOGE. According to FAIR, the Federation of American Immigration Reform, illegal immigrants cost taxpayers more than $150 billion. in 2023 alone. I'm sure that's underestimating it. That's about half as much as World War I, adjusted for inflation, and far more than the costs of the Manhattan Project, the Panama Canal, and the Hoover Dam combined. Joining me now, Congressman Aaron Dean, co-founder and co-chair of the DOGE caucus. Congressman, good to have you with us tonight. All this money spent on illegals. Meanwhile, some of the Hurricane Helene victims are still living in tents, like in Swannanoa, North Carolina, where it's 24 degrees tonight.
It's a disgrace, Laura. First of all, it's great to be with you. It's a total disgrace, and best wishes to President Trump. I just listened to Stephen Miller saying they're using all types of resources to tell Mexico, stop this. We've got to end it. It's taken a toll, not only financially, but physically. Our schools, our health care, everything's out of control because of the mess that the Biden administration is leaving us in.
Where do you start first, working with the DOGE caucus and Ramaswamy and Musk, who are newcomers to Washington? They're not Washington creatures, which is why we like them. But it's a tricky business working inside the bureaucracy, even to cut the bureaucracy. Many have tried. Few have made any headway. So where do they start?
Amen. First of all, Laura, there's great excitement. They are coming. Speaker Johnson is hosting a little roundtable session this Thursday, as both Vivek and Elon are coming. We'll be there to see where do we need to begin, what can we do to assist them. I think maybe an easy layup would just say to federal workers, how about getting back to your offices? How about going back to work? Many of them are still working from home right now.
Now, how is that a cut? That's not a cut, though. That's just getting it back. I mean, I agree with you, but it's not a cut. Mm-hmm. I mean, it seems to me that the Pentagon has escaped real budget cuts for decades. Their budget seems to grow, even if more slowly than previous years. But there's waste, fraud, and abuse there, is there not?
100%. You can't have 7 failed audits, as they've just done, $2.5 trillion that they can't account for. So we want a very strong military, but we want monies going towards making it a strong military and not waste, fraud, and abuse, which the Pentagon can't account for right now.
For a 6-vote majority, which is what you all have now in the House of Representatives, how important is it for you all to find willing Democrats to work with? I mean, Bernie Sanders over in the Senate is definitely into some of these cuts because he wants the Pentagon cut, and a couple of other places probably he can find agreement. But do you anticipate, with Trump's victory, being able to peel away some Democrats to support you in this cutting caucus that you're in?
Everybody should be on board with waste, fraud, and abuse and attacking it. Jared Moskowitz, representative from Florida, is our first Democratic member of the DOGE caucus. So, Laura, we're making progress. Still have a long way to go, but so much work to do. There's room for everybody on this caucus, on this team, to bring us back into financial solvency.
All right, Congressman, thank you very much. We will be monitoring this and holding everyone's feet to the fire.
And this one comes a little close to heart, and I'll give you my opinion at the very end. So TikTok's got a legal battle. It's got a fight for survival. The legal challenge is TikTok, the popular video sharing platform owned by Chinese company ByteDance, B-Y-T-E Dance, has launched a legal offensive against the U.S. law that could significantly alter its operational landscape in America. This law mandates that ByteDance must de-invest TikTok or face a nationwide ban, essentially forcing a change in ownership or cessation of business in one of its largest markets. And I've also heard the Google Store and the Apple Store have been told by January 17th, unless something changes, they will have to remove these programs from their stores. There's been an emergency appeal. TikTok has filed an emergency appeal with the U.S. Supreme Court, which they have now decided to take the case. They aim to delay the enforcement of this law. This appeal seeks to push back the deadline set for January 19th, which would otherwise see TikTok barred from U.S. app stores and internet hosting services if not de-invested, which I think this will now be pushed back since the Supreme Court will take the argument. First Amendment claims central to TikTok's argument is the assertion that this law infringes upon the First Amendment rights of both the company and its vast user base in the U.S. TikTok contends that the platform is not just a commercial entity, but a significant avenue for free speech where millions share ideas, engage in political discourse, and express themselves culturally and artistically. I do have a problem with that because TikTok has become one of the major social medias that limit your free speech and will shadow ban you, prevent you from getting natural views, then sell you boosts and kick you off their platform. A little bit more about that at the end of this podcast. Court proceedings. So initially, TikTok's challenge was heard by the U.S. Court of Appeals at the D.C. Circuit, which rejected the company's legal arguments. Not content with this ruling, TikTok escalated the matter to the Supreme Court, where Chief Justice John Roberts will be the first to review the emergency application. They did pick it up. Roberts would choose, and I guess he did, to decide the issue unilaterally or refer it to the full court for consideration. And there's broader implications. National security versus free speech. This case pits national security concerns against the fundamental right of free speech. The U.S. government argues that TikTok's Chinese ownership poses risk related to data privacy and potential influence from the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, whereas TikTok emphasizes its role as a platform for free expression. Again, I will note that yes, China owns TikTok, but apps like Telegram, I think, is owned by a Turkish guy. Other apps are owned by different companies. Do we specifically aim at supposedly enemies or so that own apps? Do we go after all the apps or just this one? Is just this a pick and choose? I am worried about government officials and people in the legislative who have decided to go after TikTok in particularly, who barely know social media themselves. Is it known that TikTok is very leftist in what they push out? Yes. Do they really confront the right-wing people and take them down a lot? Yes, they do. They are a problem, but maybe there's a different way to handle this. I'm not sure. The impact on users: with over 170 million American users, the potential ban or forced sale of TikTok could disrupt a major channel for communication, commerce, and entertainment. Content creators on this platform also face the prospect of losing a significant source of income and an audience engagement. And this is a precedent for digital regulation. The outcome of this legal battle could set a precedent on how the U.S. handles foreign-owned tech entities, potentially affecting how other apps or platforms with international ownership are regulated. That's what I'm more worried about than anything. Meanwhile, the public and political discourse, censorship, and control. There's a growing narrative, particularly among conservative voices, that TikTok practices selective censorship, especially when content doesn't align with their certain political or social narratives. I completely agree with this. The personal antidote of an account with being banned for sharing well-researched information labeled as misinformation highlights this critique. Oh, yes, it does. Ownership concerns. The platform's Chinese origins fuel debates about data security, privacy, and the extent to which CCP might influence or access user data. This has led to calls from either strict regulations or outright ban you unless TikTok can prove it operates independently for Chinese state influence. I would also be worried about Chinese-made products, electronic products like phones. Could they be sharing our data? Calls for acquisition. The mention of Elon Musk potentially buying TikTok reflects a desire among some on the platform to be under American control, free of what is perceived as CCP manipulation, though this is more of an opinion than a current reality. So with the path forward, Supreme Court decision, should the Supreme Court grant an injunction, which I think they have, it would allow TikTok to continue operations while a full view of the First Amendment issues occurs, possibly influencing the administration's approach post-inauguration. Trump's stance. President-elect Donald Trump has shown mixed signals regarding TikTok, having previously attempted to ban the app, but later softened his stance by expressing a desire to save TikTok, and he's put videos on TikTok. His administration could play a pivotal role in how this law is enforced or potentially modified. global implications. The outcome here could affect TikTok's operations worldwide, as other countries which watch closely to see how the world's leading economies handle digital sovereignty and security. And this legal battle is not just about TikTok's survival in the U.S. marketplace. It's a litmus test on how American balances has its commitment to free speech with its security concerns in an increasingly digital and interconnected world. And my final word about this, considering I just got one of my accounts banned off of TikTok, well, it seems TikTok doesn't like it when real information gets shared. I shared information about January 6th, researched information. I've had this account for over a year. It was pretty popular. And sometimes I had over 200,000 views on a video. But no matter how researched or valid the sources are, whether from right, left, or center, if TikTok decides to flag it, they'll slap misinformation labels on it and take you down, which is what they did. Because I posted about January 6th. And it was about informants in January 6th. My previous podcast was about this. And it was deemed true, not misinformation, reported by various media sources. Bottom line is TikTok is one of the most manipulated, shadow banning, and heavily controlled platforms out there. It's a clear sign of its CCP-based origins. And it looks like they finally banned me outright this time. Honestly, I hope someone like Elon Musk can step in and buy this app. Otherwise, pardon my French, but hashtag fuck TikTok. Let it burn. And if you don't believe me, here's a couple of videos about the TikTok banning.
And happening right now in the WRAL Live Center, there's a chance that TikTok could become a thing of the past. The Supreme Court has agreed to hear a challenge to a TikTok ban. TikTok is fighting this. A federal law could ban the app next month. A bipartisan measure was passed by Congress and signed into law by President Biden. It could go into effect January 19th. The law would require TikTok's owner, ByteDance, to sell the company or face a ban. TikTok is challenging the law, say it violates its free speech rights, but the federal government has defended the law, saying there are concerns about the Chinese government's influence over the app. The court will hear oral arguments on January 10th.
Okay, now to the latest on TikTok. Its future is in limbo, with the U.S. set to ban the popular social media app next month. But today, we are learning there may be a last shot to keep it alive. So let's go and bring in our business and tech reporter, Scott Budman. And Scott, this is going all the way to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, Audrey, it was interesting. As this went through various courts, the threat was there. We may actually have an app, a social media company, in front of the Supreme Court. And that seems to be, at least for the time being, given that the deadline is January 19th, the last chance for TikTok. And they are scheduled to have their lawyers give the arguments in front of the High Court on January 10th, 9 days before the deadline to sell.
Yeah, Scott, meanwhile, President-elect Trump just met with the TikTok CEO. We don't know what they discussed. So could all of this not even maybe need to go to the Supreme Court?
I think it will need to go to the Supreme Court for a few reasons. For one thing, President-elect Trump doesn't take office until January 20th, the day after the sale has to take place. And so there's nothing he can really do until one day after the deadline. Also, as you said, we don't really know what went on in that meeting. TikTok is not talking. President Trump's people are not talking. So we don't know if President Trump, who really got the ball rolling when he was in office to ban TikTok because of the Chinese government concerns, is not saying anything specific about what he would do now that he's kind of on the side of TikTok for several reasons. One, he got some funding from a big TikTok owner. Also, he says if TikTok does well, Facebook does not do well. And he has had a skirmish with Facebook for some years now and Mark Zuckerberg. So we don't know what soon-to-be President Trump will do, if anything. But we do know that TikTok is going to take its free speech argument that has lost so far along the way and try it in front of the High Court, the Supreme Court.
Okay, you mentioned Facebook really quick. What would this mean for social media apps like Facebook, Instagram?
It could mean seen a windfall. TikTok has something like 170 million users. It's hugely popular. It makes a ton of money. Imagine if all of those people, really of all ages, had to migrate to another social media site. Instagram would do well, YouTube, perhaps X, Facebook. There are just so many possibilities. We have seen, even over the last few months, as TikTok has been kind of in the government crosshairs, stock prices in Meta and in Snapchat go up because they are thinking this could be a windfall of users and perhaps money and ad revenue that comes if TikTok indeed shuts down in America. It's almost hard to imagine there not being a TikTok around, even though it's been a fairly short period of time that we've had TikTok. It's just so popular. But the threat and the concern that our data is being taken in by the Chinese government is big enough to really unite both sides of an otherwise divided country. And that's why you have this showdown. So the new date is not just January 19th, which is the cutoff date. It's now January 10th, when we will hear what TikTok's lawyers have to say in front of the Supreme Court.
Ooh, and that's very close.
It really is. This is all happening on a very, very short timeline. And again, the deadline is still ahead of when soon-to-be President Trump would take office.
Okay, we will see.
We'll follow it up for you.
All right, Scott, thanks so much.
You bet.
You know what it is. Red and green, silver and gold. Red and green, silver and gold. Spreading Christmas cheer. When I pulled up the sleigh, it's magic here. Step up in my town, when you see me, you know everything. Red, green, silver and gold. Red and green, silver and gold. Red and green, silver and gold. I deck it out from the tree to the lights. I'm in, I'm in. Red and green, silver and gold. Red and green, silver and gold. Red sleigh, green trim. Smiles are shining when the joy sets in. Holiday vibes, hear the choir sing. Cozy inside, the bells are ringing. Cookies baking, gifts wrapped tight. Snow is falling, the stars shine bright. Got the lights glowing, spreading cheer. Joy to the world, it's the best time of year. You know what it is. Everything I do, yeah, I do it big. Spreading Christmas cheer. When I pulled up the sleigh, it's magic here. Step up in my town, when you see me, you know everything. Red, green, silver and gold. Red and green, silver and gold. Red and green, silver and gold. I deck it out from the tree to the lights. I'm in, I'm in. Red and green, silver and gold. Red and green, silver and gold. Got a call from the North Pole, this just in. Santa's sleigh is packed, ready to win. Kids are smiling all around the globe. Love and joy are the gifts we show. Sipping go, rocking scarves and hats. Holiday cheer, how about that? Candy canes and laughter, pass it around. It's the season to lift hearts in every town. You know what it is. Everything I do, yeah, I do it big. Spreading Christmas cheer. When I pulled up the sleigh, it's magic here. Step up in my town, when you see me, you know everything. Red and green, silver and gold. Red and green, silver and gold. Red and green, silver and gold. I deck it out from the tree to the lights. I'm in, I'm in. Red and green, silver and gold. Red and green, silver and gold. You know what it is. Red and green, silver and gold. Red and green, silver and gold. Let the holiday shine, it's joy right here.
Go right, with Peter Boykin and Go Right News. He's a constitutionalist for liberty, bringing you the news that matters. It's time to do right, think right, go right and be right for America and to make the word great again. Answer. Go right, with Peter Boykin, constitutionalist for liberty, bringing you the news that matters and do right, think right, go right, be right. For America, let's make the world great again. Tune in to Go Right News. Let freedom begin.
Welcome back to Hashtag Go Right with Peter Boykin. We're going to go after our viral video roundup and follow it up with our Hashtag Go Right recap. First up on the viral videos, the CNN Van Jones admits Trump's intelligence in a surprising turn. Van Jones from CNN acknowledges Trump's intellectual prowess over his critics, highlighting an unexpected recognition from the left-leaning media. Here's where CNN Van Jones admits Trump is smarter than his critics.
Donald Trump is not an idiot. Donald Trump, let me just be very clear. Donald Trump is smarter than me, you, and all critics. You know why we know? Because he has the White House, the Senate, the House.
Totally agree.
Court, the popular vote. He has a massive media ecosystem bigger than the mainstream built around him and for him, and a religious fervor in a political movement around him. And his best buddy is the richest person in the history of the world, and the most relevant Kennedy is with him. This dude is a phenomenon. He is the most powerful human on earth and in our lifetime. And we're still saying, well, how was this guy? We look like idiots to ordinary people.
You're totally right.
Liberal admits GOP strategic move. A liberal commentator credits Republicans for smartly reallocating undocumented immigrants to blue states, calling it one of the GOP's shrewdest political maneuvers. Watch as a liberal admits Republicans busing illegals to blue states was the smartest thing they ever did. Watch this.
On the immigration front, there was a tendency amongst Democrats, and especially Democrats who are discussing the issue, so people who do interviews or are part of the media, to minimize it over the first 2.5 years when there were a lot of people coming in here. And I thought that it was a stunt, you know, when they started busing migrants. They go to Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah.
It was the smartest thing they ever did.
Well, it's interesting because I have a friend who lives in Florida, and I said, what did you think of Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott taking some of these immigrants and moving them to northern states? And she said, I thought it was great because nobody really was paying attention before that. And I do think that this untold story was the strain on social services and communities, particularly along the border, this influx, huge influx of immigrants was having. And I think the mainstream media, however you define that these days, kind of ignored that story to its peril.
And here's Mitt Romney praises Donald Trump, GOP influence on his way out. Even Mitt Romney gives Trump credit for transforming the Republican Party, a nod to Trump's lasting impact on party dynamics. Are pigs flying? Because Mitt Romney gives Trump credit for changing the GOP. Watch this. And we'll be right back with our hashtag Go Right recap.
City on a hill.
Welcome back to State of the Union. Mitt Romney there in March 2016, not mincing words about then candidate, not yet the nominee, Donald Trump in 2016, particularly Trump's refusal to disavow the support of Ku Klux Klan leader David Duke in an interview earlier that year. We talked about where Romney thinks the party goes from here in our conversation. Here's more of that. You said in an interview a few months ago that, quote, there's a good chance that the Republican Party is going to need to be rebuilt or reoriented, and that you want to have a voice in the post-Trump Republican Party. Do you think that do you still think there's going to be a post-Trump Republican Party, or is MAGA now the Republican Party?
Oh, MAGA is the Republican Party, and Donald Trump is the Republican Party today. And if you were to ask me who the nominee will be in 2028, I think it'll be J.D. Vance, all right? He's smart, well-spoken, part of the MAGA movement.
You said something pretty harsh about him a few months ago, though. You could not have less respect for somebody than J.D.
Long ago. I'm not going to rehash history, and we've worked together in the Senate since then. But I that is what the Republican Party is. And will the party need to change? Look, the Republican Party has become the party of the working class, middle class voter, and you've got to give Donald Trump credit for having done that. Taken that away from the Democrats. Democrats pushed him out. All right, the Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren faction of the Democrat Party with some of this, defund the police and transgenders in, biological males in women's sports. These things had a lot of people in the middle class just flee the Democratic Party. They're now Republicans. Now, one of the challenges in my party is that our policies do not necessarily line up with the interests of our voters. And so there'll be some reorientation that's going to be necessary in my party. The Democrat Party is the one in trouble. I don't know how they recover. I'm not going to tell them what to do because I would begin to have the capacity to do so. But they've lost their base. Union guys and gals have left the Democratic Party and are voting Republican. And the Democratic Party is seen not as rich people, but as college professors and woke scolds. And that's not an attractive feature.
Before you ran for the Senate, you came forward and gave a very tough speech about...
Welcome back to hashtag Go Right with Peter Boykin. This is our hashtag Go Right recap remix. Today we went over headlines like ABC forced to pay Trump millions for defamation. DOGE hones in on first targets for federal efficiency. Japan's SoftBank invests $100 billion in America. And TikTok's legal battle, a fight for survival and possibly free speech in the United States. Overall, folks, this is how it breaks down. From legal battles to economic promises and a fight for free speech, we've covered the landscape of our constitutional republic. ABC's settlement with Trump, DOGE's physical reforms, SoftBank's investments, and TikTok's Supreme Court plea illustrates the diverse challenges and opportunities ahead. Don't forget to catch these discussions on hashtag Go Right with Peter Boykin. For more in-depth analysis, visit Go Right News. Check us out on Rumble. Follow us on hashtag Go Right with platforms like Spreaker, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, YouTube, and Twitter, and TikTok. Nope, never mind. Screw TikTok. Support our mission to uphold liberty by donating in Cash App at $ Peter Boykin, the number 1, and links are at gorightnews.com and peterboykin.com. Let's keep the conversation going and make America right again. God bless everybody. Peace.
Peter Boykin and Go Right News. He's a constitutionalist for liberty, bringing you the news that matters. It's time to do right, think right, go right and be right for America and to make the word great again. Answer. Go right with Peter Boykin, constitutionalist for liberty, bringing you the news that matters on the do right, think right, go right, be right. For America, let's make the world great again. Tune in to Go Right News. Let freedom begin.